Hello, everybody. This is Esther's Purpose, and I'm Valerie Gilchrist. Good evening. My guests tonight are Reginald and Hennifer Gant. But before I introduce them, I want you all to remember that we're broadcasting from WYTV7 out of Charlotte, North Carolina. WYTV7 is a nonprofit organization, and we do take donations. You can go right on WYTV7.org, click the donate button, and donate $7. $7 is not a lot, but when you're a nonprofit organization, $7 can go a long way. So we would really appreciate your support. But thank you for watching Esther's Purpose tonight. My guests tonight, as I said, is Reginald and Hennifer Gant. They are husband and wife duo with many dreams to serve and be used by God to their fullest potential. Together, they have 5 published books between them, and they serve as ministry leaders in their church and community. The Gants are the owners of their own HR company, Career Image Solutions, where they provide all things HR to career professionals and business owners. They also proudly help individuals, families, and businesses protect what matters most: themselves and their families, their business and staff, and their identities through providing legal services and identity theft protection. Reginald and Hennifer believe that there is freedom in transparency, and they are on a mission to set the captives free through any means necessary, especially through affirmations, Facebook Lives, and various conferences and events as featured speakers. The couple resides in Baltimore, Maryland, with their 4 amazing children who are the fuel to drive the Gants to purpose and greatness. Welcome, welcome, welcome. How are you all tonight?
Fantastic. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful.
Great. So glad to hear that. Now, after all that wonderful introduction that I was kind of fumbling over a little bit, but we got through it. I want to start this interview off a little different than what I normally do. What got my attention about Mr. and Mrs. Gant is I saw a Facebook post that actually Mr. Gant wrote. And what I want to do is I want to read that post to you all so that you all can see what got my attention about his post. When I first read it, until I got to the bottom, it would have been something that I would have thought a wife, we as ladies would have normally posted something like this. It was a wonderful post with much transparency. So the title of the post that Mr. Gant did was Moment of Transparency. When we said I do a few years ago, it was one of the happiest days of our lives. Who knew that immediately we would lose 2 parents, gain a child, lose a child, and gain another child? As a father and husband, there is no rule book to follow. I have made mistakes and messed up. My wife has as well. No marriage is perfect, but God made no mistakes when he placed us together. Hennifer B. Gant is my partner for life. Communication, transparency, date nights, touch, I got a question about that, family, and God, all things matter. So when I read this, I got in touch with Mr. Gant and asked him, would you come on my show and your wife? Because we want to talk about this dynamic couple that are doing great things. But at the same time that they're doing great things, they also do ministry. And we know the best ministry is when you're being transparent. So, Mr. and Mrs. Gant, so I want to first talk to Reggie. Reggie, tell me what motivated you to do that post.
That's a great question. Honestly, I had just come from out of prayer. You know, my wife and I are really big into prayer. We spend our alone time reading the word, praying, and things of that nature. So I just came out, and something dropped into my spirit, you know, to just go ahead and be an encouragement just for somebody else. I was feeling really good. I was feeling real pumped up. I was really thankful to God. I mean, I was just looking around my home. I'm not sure, Valerie, if you ever just stopped and just reflected on like what God has done for you. I mean, I was in one of those particular moments and I was just like, you know what, God, you've just been so good to me. Like I want to encourage somebody. So I was thinking about, our baby boy, he's now 8 weeks and I was just looking at him. He's a beautiful boy. And just, I had a range of feelings and emotions that came up to the surface. And I just wanted to get it off my chest because I really do feel that that post could have liberated somebody else. So I just took to Facebook and started typing and sent it out there, and it got a lot of love, and I really appreciate you for reaching out.
Yes, it did. I know that it did. It really touched me, and it would have touched me had Mrs. Gant wrote it. But because you wrote it, it really got my attention because we're really not used to men being that transparent and sharing like that. So now, Mrs. Gant, when I spoke to you and told you when we were talking about coming on the broadcast about the fact that your husband posted that, share with our audience what you said to me about him posting that.
Oh my gosh, I was totally shocked that he actually put that there. Now, my husband leads groups of men anyway. I mean, my husband can get a grown man to cry, not because he's beating them up, y'all. It's just that he has a really great gift in having men open up. So when I saw him put, not about the loss of our parents, but about the loss of our child, I was totally shocked. I was glad that he did it because I know that's how he expressed himself a lot in writing before sometimes he does verbally. So I was glad that he did, but I was totally shocked myself.
Yes, I can feel that. I can. So either one of you can share, or both. Tell us about the loss of your child. What happened?
So, yeah, it was challenging. We went to our regular scheduled sonogram as usual. And, it's so interesting because we're reading a book right now. A really good friend of ours who actually, she wrote a book based upon the same situation that happened to her and her husband. And during the sonogram, they're searching for a heartbeat and they just couldn't find it. And, it was just kind of like, well, what do you mean? Like, you can't find the heartbeat? Like, the heart was just beating, like yesterday, today, earlier. And it was interesting because, I mean, we lost parents already, right? Since we got married. But that experience right there was something else because I didn't know how to compartmentalize that. And the first thing that I thought was like, wow, like, how's my wife feeling? Like, what is she thinking? How is she going to get through it? So I honestly kind of like buried my own personal feelings and was just like, man, like, I don't even know the words to say to my wife. So I just kind of dealt with it silently. I still think about it from time to time, but what I know about the God that we serve is that he restores, everything that has been lost and taken away. And just that day when I made that post, I'm telling you, I was looking at our beautiful baby boy eating, and I mean, I was just overwhelmed with emotions. And I was like, you know what, God, you do all things perfect. You do all things well. I'm not sure exactly why that situation happened to us, but you've replaced what was taken away. And in that moment, I was feeling really good.
Amen. Amen. That's good. Mrs. Gant, share with us your heart concerning that moment, that period of time.
Yeah.
As far as how you felt and what you went through.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, to anybody that's watching this that has ever lost a child, know that you are not by yourself. I think that's probably one of the things. There's been a few things in my life that has happened that I felt so isolated because there was nobody that really opened themselves up to share what they've been through. So I remember one thing that my husband did not mention is that prior to me going to that sonogram, just weeks before, I had a concern. And they're like, oh, everything's perfect. That was the words that was used. Yeah. Everything's perfect. Everything's good. So, I mean, just the restoration of hope in that moment. I'm like, oh, great. And at that next appointment, I actually went by myself. That's probably the only appointment that I've ever gone to by myself. Went by myself, had our son with us. And it was just when they said that he could not find the heartbeat, I'm like, what do you mean? I thought that that was the case, but I got this hope. Come on, God. Like, what you mean? Like, how is this even happening? I thought I heard your voice. I thought you said this is what your plans were for me. And I was totally disheartened, but there was something in me, and it could be because of previous situations that happened in my life where I knew that although I will be down for a moment, I knew that I couldn't stay down. I knew that God's love was going to endure. And with this situation, it just led me to believe, like, you know, when you hear it as a youngster, like, God is good all the time, God, you hear that as a youngster, but when it's something different about when you are really going through and you can say, all right, God, you know the plans that you have for me, and I'm just going to trust you through it, and you are good. So if you are good, even though the situation seems bad, I'm just going to trust in you anyway. And it was tough because, I mean, they had to remove the baby. It was just a whole process. But the reason why I started out sharing about how I felt isolated was because when I told a few of my close family members and friends, they said, me too. What do you mean? I really thought and I'm going to sound very naive. I promise you, I didn't know so many women went through this. I never knew because nobody talks about it. And I have a direct relative that went through it twice. I never knew. So that's the reason why we live by the motto, there is freedom and transparency. And I'm a true testament. I mean, there's been so many situations time and time again where I know the average person, it would have been like, okay, God, guess what? I'm lifting my hands up, not because I surrender, just because, you know, you just got to do what you want to do. I'm gone. I'm out of here. Peace. But God is just so good, and he truly restores. That's the reason why I gave our son Eden the middle name Jeremiah, for he truly knows the plans that he has for us. And not just, even if he decided not to prosper us, man, he's been so good. We don't even have enough tongues.
Absolutely.
Amen. Amen. That is a wonderful testimony. That is absolutely true. And so how were you all able to comfort to each other? Because Mr. Gant, what you said was you kind of stayed back a little bit and let her, because when she started talking, and Mrs. Gant, you said that, you know, you went by yourself that day, but you had your son with you. Okay. And how old was your son?
Ooh, he was in a stroller.
Mm-hmm.
He was probably what, one?
Yeah. So that was kind of tough too, to try to get that information in your head, but at the same time, you're the mom of this 1-year-old sitting here.
Yes.
So you really couldn't take the opportunity to really kind of have a meltdown or feel how you wanted to feel.
Yeah.
Because you had to be the mama right then as well, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And so Mr. Gant, so at the moment when you called him, how'd that happen?
I did. I ended up calling you. I don't even remember. It was like a glaze. Do you remember?
Yeah, she called me. Yeah, but you know, the real communication and consolation came when she got home. You know, because we were able to talk about it and, you know, hold each other and, you know, just get intimate, you know, before the Lord, and, you know, and just mourn, but still kind of like, you know, praise him, you know, because as challenging as a situation like that is, I mean, the way that our faith set up in our house, right? We have a sign over our door that says that, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. I understand that, you know, God reigns on the just and the unjust. So, you know, life happens to everybody. But even when things happen that are devastating, such as that, we still know that the God that we serve is still in charge. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we kind of had to, you know, kind of grieve, but we kind of had to be like, you know what, God, we understand that you have a purpose. You had a purpose for that life, apparently. You know, you still have purpose for us. So, you know, let's just come together and, you know, pray our way through this and talk it out as best as possible. But Valerie, that was a challenge.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And believe me, I understand those challenges. I actually 2 years ago, December 10th, I actually witnessed my mother leave this life from a PE episode. Her and I were sitting there talking just like you guys are talking with me right now. We were in the room together. And within 2 hours, she went from talking like normal to in distress and told me she felt like she was about to pass out to passing out. And within 2 hours, she was gone. And the unfortunate thing, she was in the hospital, but for nothing traumatic. The doctor had just left, just like what you all are saying. He came in, he said, "You're doing great, everything's fine. You can go home tomorrow, we're gonna check you out. Just need you to eat lunch and dinner, and you're good." He said, and I said, "Well, can she get up and walk around?" He said, "Yeah, get up. Y'all go walk around, everything's fine. Let's go." He left, and within a few minutes, I got her up, and the next thing I know, we're in a critical situation, and I'm in the room, and I'm blocked in from between the bed and the wall, and all of these life-saving things are going. I kind of think they kind of forgot I was in the room, but yet they were talking to me and asking me questions. So I saw a lot of things that, from what I understand now, I probably should not have seen. So I get it when something all of a sudden happens and you are not ready. Not only not ready, you talk about challenging your faith. It challenges your faith. I love the Lord. I've been saved a long time. I'm an evangelist. I go encourage people, pray for people, do my conferences and all of that. But on that day, and the thing was that it literally 7 days prior, the Saturday before, the Lord kept prompting me about pick a date, pick a date, pick a date. So I picked a date for the conference, and the conference that year was January. It was like the second Saturday in January. So I can't remember. I think January 12th or 13th, maybe the 14th. And he knew that 7 days later, I was going to be standing in a hospital and watch my mother leave this life. And then in less than 4 weeks, now have to go and stand in the stage and do this conference. And I tell you, so I understand the challenge and the confusion and the I don't understand and kind of mad, and you got to keep taking breaths, and then you still got to step up and do what you were supposed to do. And it gets to be a great challenge. But what we find in the midst of it is how powerful our God is, because none of us could have done what we did and keep it moving if it wasn't for him.
Yep.
Strengthening us through it. And like you said, Mr. Gant, knowing of a surety, he already knew. He prepared us for it, whether we thought we were or not. He was there with us in it, whether we thought it or not. He understands our pain and our grief, right? And he gives us space, because sometimes we think we don't have space, but we do. He gives us space to do what we need to do. Now, before we go on to what you all are doing now, I want to remind our viewing and listening audience that this is Esther's Purpose. I'm Valerie Gilchrist. We're broadcasting from WYTV7 out of Charlotte, North Carolina. And my guests tonight are Mr. and Mrs. Reginald Gant. And we are discussing just, the trials of life, things that we go through. But on this half, we're going to bring some light in. We're going to bring some light in. So since that occasion, you have a new baby. How old is the new baby?
8 weeks.
Yeah.
8 weeks. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
All right.
You see bags under our eyes?
Well, that is wonderful. Congratulations. Now, I want you all to talk about your business, what you do. How did that come about, and what do you all do?
It's interesting because my husband and I actually met because of business. I was working 9 to 5 and building a 5 to 9, and was offering resume services to people. And then I started offering HR services to businesses. I'm like, you know what? I can't be doing all of this. I need a resume writer. Found his company on Facebook. The rest is the story. The rest of the story is history.
Shout
that
out
is
to
how
Facebook.
we met.
That's how we met.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He had a resume writing company, and I didn't know. I'm telling you all, listen, I wasn't trying to find no man. He didn't even have a picture. So let me just cut that out for all of y'all, right? Whatever. But fast forward, we have a HR company that is truly a ministry.
Yes.
We just had our team meeting, and that's what I was really pouring into them. Like, human resources, what we know in human resources, the ability and the employment laws to be able to hire and fire and move a company along is not just something that we can take lightly. It can change the trajectory of somebody's life, of somebody's legacy. So that's what we get to do with Career Image Solutions. We provide services for job seekers. We help them get the jobs of their dreams. And then we help business owners, growing businesses that don't have HR. They know that they're growing. They're going to need to add staff. They just call on us, and then we do all things HR. And we've been getting booked a lot for speaking engagements. So we added the training leg as well. So we go to organizations, a lot of churches, and we provide career development training as well as business related training to make sure that everybody's systems are in order.
Well, that is great, and that is a much needed service. Now, Mr. Gant, what I see a lot that you talk about is Legal Shield. Is that the name?
Absolutely.
So talk to us about Legal Shield. Where did that come from? How'd you start that? And what are the services that you provide?
So that's one of the services that we also provide through our company, Career Image Solutions. But why Legal Shield is extremely passionate to me. For anybody who doesn't know what Legal Shield is legal services and identity theft protection. And the number one reason of why I offer it, like I'm huge. I lead the men's ministry at my church. I lead men's groups all across Baltimore and Maryland. But I'm really huge on men, right? Protecting the things that matter the most, and that's themselves and their families and their businesses and their legacies. And the number one thing that I love to educate people on is the living will through Legal Shield. Because I don't know about you, Valerie, if you know the stats or not, but 7 out of 10 Americans don't have a will. But in the minority community, 9 out of 10 people of color don't have a will in place. So when they die, they don't have anything. And what I love through Legal Shield is that it gives you the ability to not only get your living will, but you get your last will and testament and your medical directives complimentary just for being a member of the services. But your spouse or your significant other also get the same life-changing documents. So when I sit down and I get to educate somebody on, having access to a will, having access to attorneys and law firms all across this country, 24/7, you can call on them. And I mean, it's less than the cost of pizza. I mean, it's a no-brainer, when I sit down and I share that. So that's why you hear me talking about it a lot, because it's something that everybody needs. The last time that I checked, right, nobody gets out of life alive. So there will come a day when we close our eyes. Are we going to protect the things that we've worked so hard to build up over the years? Or are we going to let the state come in, the state in which we live, and dictate what happens to what you work so hard for? As for me and my house, I want to dictate what I've built up so that I can leave my legacy the way that I want to leave it. And it's our job to make sure that we educate as many people as possible. So yeah, that's a tremendous passion of mine. So that's one of the things that I really push hard through our company.
Yeah, I can tell, because I promise you, I see it all the time. I do. And I'm really glad that you do that, because people don't understand how important that is. We actually have broadcasters, and they do a program on WYTV7 called When Men Open Up. And so we understand that they are treasures. You watched it?
I have. I actually just connected with them on Instagram. Those guys are amazing.
Yes, they are. They are. So I am glad that you did, that you actually have already connected with them, because you guys need to probably get on there and talk about that, because I mean, people don't think about it. No one wants to think about leaving. And I think that people get, so caught up in the not wanting to think about it that they don't. And then because they don't want to have those difficult conversations. What if, and what do I have in place if this happens? And and especially if you have kids and you've got a lot going on. Okay, so how do you have that conversation? So Mr. Gant, just give us a little bit, you don't have to give us a lot, just give a little bit of how that conversation can be a little bit easier for men to have when you're trying to have that conversation about their wife, their children, their family and making sure that they leave that legacy intact if something were to happen to them?
That's a great question. And actually, I'm so glad that you phrased it that way, because the conversation can be really easy, right? Especially for men and women of faith, because the Bible gives clear instruction as to what a good man should do. And the Bible says that a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. So as the man, as the head of the household, you know, you sit down with your wife and you say, hey, you know what, honey, I know that we're working hard, we're grinding, we have X, Y, and Z, but it's time for us to be responsible, right? We have to look now to, you know, what's coming next. And, you know, our children are growing up. You know, are we going to leave a little nest egg for them? Are we going to leave our businesses to them? You know, are we going to leave the homes and the automobiles to him? Like, what are we going to do? But you always tie that back into the Word of God. And the Word of God calls us as parents to be responsible. So the last time that I checked, no parent wants to be irresponsible on purpose when it comes to their children. So once you really sit down and you get the eyes and the attention of your mate, those kinds of conversations can be extremely easy. And what I love about Legal Shield is that if you wanted to get a will or a medical directive or what have you, right, it's a questionnaire. And it's not anything challenging. And if you have difficulty filling out the questionnaire, you pick up the phone, the attorneys will walk you through. Yeah. But it does really require you to open up and have some candid conversation, because my wife and I, you know, we had to say, hey, if something happened to me, then, you know, what are you going to do? If something happens to her, then, you know, what am I going to do? But the challenging part was, if something happens to both of us, then what? You know, and we really had to get real and look at each other and pray and get some family members involved and ask for their opinions and, you know, for their faithfulness to step up and step in. And we are sure, you know, that now we have that peace of mind.
Yes. So now, Mrs. Gant.
Yes.
So let's get your perspective on that. How did that conversation feel to you? And then you making decisions along with your husband, especially that last statement he made about, okay, what, because you don't really hear that. So you might hear, okay, if something happened to me, if something happened to you, but when you go into that, something could happen to both of us, you know, and now we're talking about children without either one of us. Talk to us from your perspective about how that felt going through that process for you.
Well, the will is very personal to me. So the two parents that we lost were my biological father and the second woman that raised me. Okay. And I actually saw my other mom die. She literally, as soon as I got there, I was in the room, and she literally within minutes. Same thing with my father. Showed up at the hospital and he died literally that day. Yeah. So it's very personal to me, because when my father passed away at the hospital, he went into the hospital. Fine. Perfect. Not fine, but he went into the hospital because we didn't know what was happening. And he was there for months. He no longer could speak. My parents are from Sierra Leone, West Africa. Okay, I say that because there's my father is just a very typical African man. Okay, and he did not really share. If he never went to the hospital, he didn't share that anything was wrong. But to see him in the hospital bed, and he was unable to speak. And decisions were being made on his behalf about his health. And my other mom looked to me and said to my brother and I, and said, listen, I'm too distraught. I need you to decide what we should do. Mind
you, my wife is pregnant.
Yeah.
During this whole situation.
So my brother looks to me and he's like, what do you think we should do? I'm just like, I don't want to make this decision. So knowing that something could have been put in place. Yeah. Your will is literally your last love letter to the ones that you leave behind, completely. And it was just that piece of the process was so difficult, because as a believer, you're like, oh, you know, am I killing my father? You just don't want your loved ones to have to deal with that. So it's just such, you know, it's not even for me just about what you're leaving people, but it's about, just letting them know what you would want, because I really don't know what my father would have wanted. And we just prayed that it was the best decision.
Yes. Now, are you the oldest between you and your brother?
No.
Oh, he just said, no, you got this, sis.
I'm just, you know how you, in every family, there's a person, and I'm second in line. We have a baby sister as well, but I'm usually the one that's, more boisterous about having opinions. But at that moment, really, everybody was just nobody could really make it. You were there.
I was there.
Nobody can make a decision. Nobody can make a decision. And it was tough. And that's what it means to me and my family. So it's just like, we update it annually. That's important too.
That's free
because even if you had one before, you have to make sure that things are updated because things change. We have to update ours this year because of the new baby. Who's gonna take care of your loved ones once you leave? If you were in a state where you weren't, you didn't pass away, but you were alive, how long do you want them to hold you on? Do you want a DNC? So there's just so many things to think about.
Yes. Wow, that was a lot, and I understand that, how difficult that can be. Because when my mother passed, my father was full on into Alzheimer's, and so there were decisions now that had to be made about the house and everything that was in the house, and now where was he going to be, and especially because, of course, he didn't know where she was, and the grace in all of it was that he had Alzheimer's, but he still grieved, but he didn't really know what was wrong, and so that was real tough to see, and so then the family had to make decisions that were real hard, and so we understand that. But you all, both of you, you are just both so precious. I thank you all both so much for coming on and being so transparent about your lives and talking about Legal Shield and all the things that you all talked about tonight, because those, what has impacted your life so greatly and Legal Shield really work together to make what you're saying real to people. How important it is when those things happen. So I so appreciate you all coming on. And before you leave, what I want you all to make sure you do is give you all social media handles. How can people contact you? They heard Legal Shield, maybe some of them for the very first time, or they've seen it but didn't know what it was, and now you all have put information out there and they're saying, hey, how do we reach them? So let them know. How do you reach you guys?
So our company, Career Image Solutions, you can find us on Facebook by the company name Career Image Solutions. The website itself is www.career-image.com. The telephone number is 410-635-1022. Legal Shield, I'll give you a bit.ly link. We like to give the shortcut link. So
yes, do that.
It's bit.ly/the-Gantz. So you can't forget it. bit.ly/the-Gantz. And what that does is it takes you to our very own private Legal Shield website, and you'll see how to protect yourself, your family, your business, your identity, all of the things that matter the most that, we just kind of take for granted.
Wonderful. That is awesome. Thank you two so very much for coming in and sharing your lives with us and your business and all that you all are doing. I pray blessings upon both of you and your business, that you continue to prosper and move forward in what you're doing and be a blessing, not only to the body of Christ, but, all around the world for those that need your services, because every one of us need it. Whether we want to deal with it or not, we need it. So thank you all so very much. And we're going to close, but we want you all to hang on for just a moment. I really hope you all heard what the Gantz had to say tonight. They gave you information to contact them. Please contact them if you do not have things in place for you. It'll help you in life be much more peaceful about those transitions and decisions that have to be made later. I thank everyone for watching our show tonight. I want you all to remember that you can tap into Esther's Purpose on all of our social media websites. You can go to LinkedIn. You can go to Facebook for Valerie Gilchrist, Parker Gilchrist, Esther's Purpose. On Instagram, Valerie_Gilchrist, also Esther's Purpose, Valerie Parker Gilchrist. On LinkedIn, you can also listen to the Gantz again and again and again and again as much as you need. On Spreaker, iHeartRadio, YouTube, WYTV7.org, Spotify, TuneIn, Twitter, LinkedIn, Bean Pod, and FM Player. You can listen to them or go back to any of my other shows, any of the guests that you want to listen to. Please go back and feast on that. Grab that information that you need. Tap in when you need to. Thank you all so much for watching our show tonight. Appreciate you. See you all again next week. Bye-bye.